How's it going, Kittanning, or should I say, I don't know, House Representative District 63?
63.
I'm Andrew Ladisaw here on the Greatest City in the World podcast with our candidate, Josh Bashline. So just want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself a little bit. We have an election coming up here, or a primary election coming up soon. Very excited about that. You're the first person that I'm getting to interview about this, so pretty excited about that too. Appreciate you reaching out.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here and happy to answer all these questions, introduce myself to everyone who'll be listening. Like you said, my name is Josh Bashline. I'm a candidate for the 63rd District here for our Republican primary, April 23rd. And, happy for you and everyone to, learn more about myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us an idea. I know there was some redistricting several years ago. Some people may still not know about all of that stuff. Kittanning and kind of all of Armstrong County used to be together. Now we're separated, Ford City and Kittanning. So the north is kind of in your district, and then how far does it go?
Roughly, over to Worthington. On the east side, it'd be Elderton, Plum Creek Township, all of Kittanning Borough. You could kind of go by, if you have to go across the water, you're now in Abbey Majors District.
Yeah.
And then, for everyone in the north, it's the entirety of Clarion County. It used to include Forest, but it does not anymore.
Yeah. I was a little sad when we lost Abby, but then I thought Donna did a pretty great job. Got to know her over the last few years, and now she's retiring. And so you're one of the 4 candidates that remain after all of the signatures have been submitted. And so tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and kind of how did you come to want to do this?
Yeah. Well, so my entire life, which I'm, thankful for the way I was raised and the communities I grew up in, I think regardless of where you live, my favorite is still like good hometown America, the rural people, rural communities. You can't beat it.
Yep.
So I, originally from Western Pennsylvania, I've moved and got to experience a lot of things, even across the state, which I'm thankful for all those experiences. Get right into, why I want to do this and how I kind of started my professional career. When I got back from my most recent deployment in 2019, I came back in 2020. I really started volunteering, community things, political. I wanted to see the people who shared my values.
Yeah.
And I think our values of the 63rd, into higher office. So I joined the Republican committee. Now been blessed to become the vice chair of Clarion County Committee.
Nice.
And then in 2020, I started my professional and political career working with President Trump. So I was one of his, field operatives, field representatives for the Northwest. Basically what we did was, kind of what I'm doing now, but on a, much larger scale, registering close to 1,000 voters now.
Wow.
Which that's what I really take pride in, because that's just getting more access to anyone, even regardless of party or anything. More people involved, learning about what the process is, civics in general. I'm really proud of that. After that, I continued to almost as like a private consultant. You could almost say small business, but I was the only employee.
Yeah.
I worked with candidates from the local level the entire way up to the federal level. Won a statewide election with Stacey Wallace as her campaign manager. She now sits on the Commonwealth Court. Very proud of that.
Very cool.
So that's one of my main things that I really take pride in, and I'm happy to have helped, elevate these people into positions where they can really help our communities and make a difference.
Yeah. So you've gotten to kind of learn how the whole election system works, obviously, and I'm sure you're getting more and more involved with what this would mean if you become our next representative.
Right.
And so, I don't know, tell me a little bit more about deployment. I didn't know you were...
Oh, yeah. So I been U.S. Army and PA National Guard. Different times have been activated.
Wow.
From, local things, helping pull state troopers out of the snow, during bad storms. Didn't have to do that this year. We've had a pretty mild winter, I'm thankful for.
Yeah.
And from being on the Pope's security detail when he came to Philadelphia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was a really nice experience. My deployment was to Europe all of 2019. We were the quick reactionary force presence, on the border of Ukraine. We would see Russian planes and tanks on the border and everything, and kind of the policy at that time was peace through strength, which I agree with. We were there and everything was peaceful. now you can see what's happened once we all pulled back, which is unfortunate. But that was a really good experience. I was over there for a year. I got to, embrace the different cultures and learn, but then also, it was a really good military experience.
Yeah. Well, appreciate your service as well. That's awesome. So what made you, what inspires you to do this? Obviously you did these different experiences with the Trump campaign and helping get one of our judges elected. What happened through that process where you were like, hey, I think I want to do this?
Definitely the experiences I've learned and grown as a person, and then also the connections I've made. I'd say I have good working relationships with many current state reps and senators, and then a lot of people in local government. We become friends. I've seen what works best, policies. I've seen how if you really want to make a difference, there's no better person than yourself. A lot of people say, well, I want this done and want this done, and I think if you really look at it, you can then take the plunge and say, you know what, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why? The word politician is a dirty word nowadays.
Yeah.
And I really would like to change it back to public servant.
Absolutely.
Anytime I'm talking to people and, everyone who's going to see and listen to this, this is not just me talking about myself. This is a job interview.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing with about 70,000 people for them to be my boss. I think that's forgotten nowadays.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure. I preach that as well. I mean, I think personal responsibility, like taking personal responsibility of the problems that we have, is absolutely essential. And I tell people all the time, the work that we've done in Kittanning and that we continue to try to do, it's like we have to kind of take on the mentality that no one's going to come and save us.
Right.
And if we can just take on some of these problems on the local level, if we do get government help, if we get grants, if we get whatever happens, some law gets passed that makes things easier, great. But we still have to take responsibility here locally, and I really believe in that myself.
Yeah, completely agree. I think we are kind of in an age where either people say, I want nothing to do with the government, or to learn about it, because there is, with grants and different processes that can really help.
Yeah.
Or people look to a savior.
Yeah.
Personally, I believe there's only one savior.
Amen.
And, you can't idolize a politician. They can't come in and promise you this, and this without knowing the process and the hard work that it actually requires.
Right.
It should be hand in hand. If you can't be a jack of all trades. You have things from healthcare to EMS to the grants and different social issues. You can't know all of those things.
Yeah.
But what and something that I've pledged to do, and I've said since day one when I first announced, I want to surround myself with a team. If there's something I don't know, I want the most knowledgeable people in that field. I'm not a doctor, so I can't really answer doctor questions.
Sure.
And then also bring people into the community, more round tables, more office visits, be very accessible. So I could be like, hey, this specific small business, like what is affecting you? And then go and talk to everyone there. Because that's the best way. You can't just say, listen to an expert or I know everything, I'm the state rep. Like you really need to connect with the community. It's not two separate levels.
Right.
I do remind people it is, that basically the House of Commons. You can go down to Harrisburg anytime, or you can watch every bill and thing they vote on live on a stream.
Yeah.
And I think, something I would want to do is just work hand in hand with the communities.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really, I've seen a lot of those local reps working with local organizations, working with local government, and when that works well, it can really make a difference. And so having the right person in that spot is very important. So as you've been going around, I'm sure you've been talking to people for the last several weeks, probably way more people than you ever anticipated.
It's nice.
To.
I'm making more and more friends, and just a lot of people ask me with my last name. They go, Bashline, where's that from? And I like to tell people, well, I know there's a lot in both counties. A little family history, even above myself. My ancestors came here right after the Revolutionary War. Back then, families were more like clans, where you had a very, very large family. So they took their money they got from fighting in the Revolution, and they came here and they settled in like the Elderton area, the Knox area, and Clarion. Even as far as Grove City, the Grove City Hospital used to be the Bashline Hospital.
Oh, wow.
And I take pride in that because I did the same thing when I came back from my deployment. I'm even younger than I am now. I had money in my pocket, a college degree. I could have moved anywhere in the whole country, but I chose to come back here to the 63rd because of how much I, appreciate it.
Absolutely. Very good. So, as you've been talking to people, I'm sure issues have been coming up. I'm sure you have kind of a platform that you're running on. What do you see as the major issues in this election, or like what are you hoping to be able to go and be a part of solving when you go to Harrisburg?
So, as we all know, our area, not just the 63rd, but even the surrounding areas, you had a lot of industry and other things leave, and we're still to this day considered a depressed area. I really want to bring that back. Those jobs didn't go away because they just got replaced with other jobs. They just left our area. So workforce development is huge on my agenda. And it's not just saying, jobs, jobs, jobs. I think that's another one of those political terms.
Sure.
Good family sustaining jobs where someone could be like, which is kind of unheard of now. I worked here for 20 years. My grandpa worked there for 30 years. We raised our kids. We went to the same church, really because we do have a great area. And the cost of living so low. It's safe. You have tons of recreation, outdoor activities, which is another thing I'll talk about too. Increase that because I think that's still one of the best ways to get people to live, move, and stay in your area.
Yeah, definitely.
And on top of workforce development, you bring more people in, you have these good jobs. That also increases the tax base, which, you can take any major issue, again, from schools to EMS. You have more people paying in. You don't have to raise taxes because it's divided by more people, and then you have more funding where you're less reliant on the government.
Absolutely.
Because those grants and things, they're not guaranteed. It's something I'd really fight for. The district I worked in this last year, we brought in millions and millions of dollars. So I have great experience with all those agencies, talking about like where the money should go, how we can get more and more for townships, boroughs, organizations. But good family sustaining jobs is still the number one thing, and it'll rise all ships, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about. I mean, I know state rep. There's a lot of you. I can't remember exactly.
203.
203. So you have a lot of state reps across Pennsylvania. You'll be one of those voices that's there. Do you see any opportunities, or I don't know from your experience, do you see like how would you go about trying to bring employers here to make that happen?
So connect with the business leaders that are already here. You can, and it doesn't even have to be an expense. You can, create a board, completely nonprofit. They're not even taking in any money, to go out and say like, look at this land, look at the people that are here that want to work, the good hardworking people. And you can entice them by showing them. You can go out and grab them. Be like, why would you want to move here where expenses are higher and where, there's so much competition for the workforce? Come here. But that also, when it comes to the laws and legislations, we have so much red tape in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just the district, it's statewide, where it's not a good environment for a lot of businesses. We lose out to Ohio in almost everything.
Right.
And you can then look at what other legislatures have done and say, well, that works. When it comes to those, dollars and cents, it's not an opinion, it's what works and what doesn't. And you compare it to other states as well.
Yeah. And you talked about workforce development, so I'm assuming there's maybe some kind of educational shift that can happen where people have been talking for years about, gosh, it shouldn't be a shameful thing to your family to go to school and become a master plumber.
Right.
It's like that should be seen as just as good as a college education.
Exactly. So, and I've seen this and experienced it personally. When we talk to, and I'll just say kids, the question is always, where are you going to college? Where are you going to college?
Right.
What happened to what do you want to be when you grow up?
Right. Yeah.
I think education and access and seeing what kind of opportunities there are. When I was 17 years old, I didn't know about welding. I didn't know about working in an oil field. I got told, learn algebra, learn this stuff, which is great,
Yeah.
But I just wasn't exposed to those things.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be definitely brought back into the schools because you can't just have a college track. How many of my friends and people I know are like, well, yeah, I just picked the college. I changed my major a few times. A lot of people drop out. They do incur that massive debt.
Right.
And that's not really what they wanted to do.
Yeah. I have a person that I know, they just graduated not too long ago. They got a finance degree, and it was very frustrating because they came out of college and they wanted to get into securities. The college knew they wanted to get into securities, but they didn't even come out with the basic like securities license. And I was like, how simple would it be to just connect the financial world to the finance degree, and they could walk out with the certificate, so they can walk in and immediately have a job anywhere. And it's just like there's little things like that, little tweaks that could just be made to connect employers to the education directly.
Right.
So
Well, there's
a
some
better
great
path.
there's some great organizations too that they use things like virtual reality because you know you don't want to bring a bunch of young kids into a factory where there are liability issues.
Sure.
VR and the technology we have so they can see these careers, more job shadowing, and that goes along with too. We really need to push some basic life skills in schools. I know, due to funding and things, so there's been driver's ed programs that have been cut, a lot of civics courses that have been cut. When I train some of my new soldiers, 18, 19 years old that come in, they don't know how to apply for loans. They don't know about credit, balancing their checkbook.
Right.
And that, right along with teaching them, how to serve in combat arms, I teach them those things too.
Right.
Which, I'm very thankful to be able to do that. And I'm happy that, my parents and my role models taught me that.
Right.
But I mean, that's some basic skills that really need pushed.
Yeah. Adulting, as they say.
Yeah, adulting. Yep.
So we got increase industry, workforce development, increase the tax base. That raises all ships. You talked a little bit about tourism, recreation, those kinds of things. I don't know if you have anything else to add with that.
Oh, that would definitely be a committee that I would want to be on. I mean, we have, you look at the hunting, fishing. I have a camp in Cook's Forest. I mean, there's so much of that can be, increased and, almost advertised. It's such great things. And that's the thing too. I've seen, when they call it a depressed area, there's a lot of, and this goes hand in hand with the businesses. Used to be even more movie theaters, bowling alleys, drive-in theaters, things like that. And that's really what keeps people around. Now, I will say something that the district as a whole does great is, local organizations, whether it be Lions Club, Rotary, American Legions, they do a great job. And then our fairs and festivals, they're great.
Absolutely.
I mean, you look at, just a parade or craft shows like that. We really need to push that, how great that is, because it's so local, but we bring people even, as far as Philadelphia and those areas, they come over to see it.
Yeah.
Having been in the Autumn Leaf Festival parade in Clarion, I go to the whole county's 36,000 and you have 1 million people there in a week.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. It's a big economic driver, honestly.
Right.
Same thing with like the folk festival that happens here. They'll bring, it seems like 20,000 people into a town of 4,000. It's probably more than that over the course of the week, but it's pretty great event.
Yeah.
Have you gotten to research much about the Armstrong Trail and the things that are happening there?
Oh yeah, so trails are real big. Yeah. I helped the state rep I was working for this year. He did a 100-mile bike trail.
Yeah.
He's the one of the co-chairs of the Bashline Cycling Caucus. And I mean, and that's just a pure positive because you have people who come up and visit, they see it.
Yeah.
Good source of exercise and health, which is extremely important nowadays.
Right.
Well, it's always important, but I think it needs to be emphasized more.
For sure.
So yeah, trails, things like that, super positive. And you look at what trails are usually made out of. They're either abandoned land, old rails to trails things.
Yep.
I mean, so you're taking something that was almost like blight and making it into something that can be used for recreation and, positive.
Yeah. And that's Chris Ziegler and the whole trail board. They're doing an amazing job. The Armstrong Trail will soon be like one of the main sections of the Pittsburgh to Erie. And so they're thinking, maybe 500,000 or 1 million people will come through Kittanning or through all of Armstrong County. That's and
I'm super excited for when all the trails are done and you have that full connection. You know.
Yeah, it'll be a big economic driver for sure.
Right.
So I know that people will want to know. You're running as a Republican, obviously. Yes. They're going to want to know conservative credentials, Second Amendment things, all that kind of stuff. Tell me about politically where you stand on those things, because I know it'll get asked.
Right. So I'd say I'm, pretty conservative, good Christian conservative, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, like highest, I did get the 100% highest pro-life rating from the Pro-Life Federation. We have more endorsements and recommendations such as FOAC already. And, We'll have GOA and NRA, ratings on the way.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to those things, I almost don't talk about them that much because I almost think it's a prerequisite to run in our party.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to ask someone those things,
Right.
because I feel like you should just go in. So I do focus more on the, economic development and things like that. But when it comes to the experience and knowing how things work down there, I would never compromise any of my beliefs or, the overwhelming belief of the district to get those things done.
Yeah.
So I'd be, staunch either yes or no votes on certain things, and I couldn't be swayed either way.
Yeah. Good stuff. I know we talked a little bit more before we were, started recording here, a little bit about the kind of interplay, because you have northern Armstrong County and you have all of Clarion County. There's, I know there will be chatter about having an Armstrong County rep versus a Clarion County rep, and if we have someone from there, we've forgotten, or those kinds of things. What does that look like for you, and how's all of that working out for the election?
Well, I think it, shouldn't necessarily matter where you live. I mean, you go above that, no one's ever talked to a president a lot of times, or their senators that have the entire state. Congressman, there's no way he can live in every county that
Right.
he or she represents. And I also think it's balance.
Yeah.
I think, being from Clarion, but carrying the exact amount of Clarion and the parts of Armstrong I would represent, I think that, provides good balance.
Mm-hmm.
We also, our rural values and the issues that are facing us, they're not any different from Indiana or
Right.
Venango County or Forest. I mean, we're not a monolith, but, it's kind of our rural values as a whole and what we've seen. I talked about being a depressed area and bringing jobs back. We're fairly similar.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that would be something too that, just because I live in Clarion Township, I wouldn't ignore Armstrong.
Right.
I had no problem coming down here today. And during the campaign, I'd say I've as best as I could tried to do, meet as many people from both counties, because you're not representing just one county. And the same thing with people who aren't able to vote for me because it is a primary. This isn't an election just for those people. I'm
Sure.
running to represent everyone in the district.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to me, that's not an issue at all. I feel like Donna did a really good job of kind of balancing those things and being involved down here when she could and all that kind of stuff. So I said before, and I'll say it again right now, I think it's much more important to get the right person in the seat than to necessarily have the person be, as close to home as possible.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you guys connecting with Josh, I'm sure he would appreciate your vote coming up here.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my, additional platforms is transparency. I have my Facebook and my palm cards with my email and my personal cell phone right on it, because I want to be accessible. Like I mentioned that, becoming an elected official doesn't immediately put you higher than anyone else. We're all created the same, and that accessibility needs to be there. You can't help with every single local issue, because I also am really, really strong on federalism. If it's a county or a township issue, I'll do exactly what I can,
Right.
but I can't make false promises.
Right.
And when it goes into my experience and kind of ask myself the next question of like, why vote for me? We have 4 candidates.
Yeah.
And besides the strong beliefs I have that align with our beliefs, and my military experience and everything I've done in the past, including I worked for a state rep this last year, as his chief of staff, completely hired the staff, worked in Harrisburg half the time, sat on committees and other things, even without him needing to be there.
Yeah.
And I was very thankful to have that trust to be able to go to Harrisburg without him and make those decisions.
Yeah.
I can confidently say that besides voting on the House floor, which you need to be elected for, I've done everything a state rep can do.
Wow.
Which is, great experience. And I literally can step right in and just day one, I would want to keep the offices where they are. It doesn't need to be a major shift. I would like to increase the awareness of what the offices can do for people, but that's where I think I stand above and beyond my peers that are running. I have that experience in Harrisburg and know how to bring that money for the district. And also, even though I have my strong beliefs, you can leave politics at the door, because in this job, it's what can you do for the districts. You should be the champion, the advocate for the district, whether it be bringing money, connecting people within the district, businesses and organizations. And it's something I've already done and would like to continue to do for the 63rd.
Love it. Very cool. Trying to think of, is there anything else that you wanted to make sure we talked about, or did we kind of cover the main things?
Yeah, I think we really covered the main things. I spoke with you too about and mentioned already that we use the word politician, and it's technically, if you run for anything, even if you're in high school and you're running for student government, you're a politician.
Yeah.
That's just the label you get if you're running for office.
Right.
But I really want to change it back to public servant, where regardless of what's happening at the presidential level and in politics or congressional, Senate, even other parts in our state, someone will be able to say, you know what, I really hate politics. I hate that whole thing, but that's my guy. He's a friend. He works hard. It's not a 3-day-a-week job down in Harrisburg, make some votes. It's every day you're working to make the district and enrich the lives of the people that live within it.
Yep.
Then that's what my main focus would want to be, where people can really go, that's my guy. I feel confident in him, representing what I want down there.
Absolutely. Well, this is the whole point of this interview was for you guys to learn Josh's heart and to just to get to know the candidates. I'd really encourage you to try your best to get to know the other three as well. If you're really for someone else and you think they could benefit from one of these interviews, I would love everyone to have as much information as possible for this election. Josh, it's great to meet you. It sounds like you're a great candidate, great fit for the job. I wish you really well. If people were watching this and they saw, well, I'd like to ask him this, this, and this, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you, to support your campaign? How can people get involved if they want to get involved?
And I appreciate you being able to link all this information on the video as well. You can go to my Facebook, because Facebook's now become something, as our town halls or libraries were years ago.
Absolutely.
You go to Bashline for PA, or type in Josh Bashline for state representative. It'll come up. Bashline4pa@gmail.com. You can email me, and I'll put this right out there. If someone wants to give my campaign a call, leave me a message. It's 814-229-6050.
Yep.
Like I said, transparency and being able to connect with people and learning what they want from their state rep is my number one goal. So I've never not answered someone or showed up at their house when they've asked or met with their family, and I'd continue to do so, if elected.
I think that's awesome. That's kind of a rarity, but it's really, really good.
I know, and I have a big smile about it, because people are like, "Are you sure this guy's?" And I'm like, I know it's unheard of, but we've had those people. Out of 203 members, there's a lot. I'm not saying there's any bad ones, but there's a lot of really good people that I've got to know over the years. And I'd be looking forward to work with them. And if you really work at your job and want the positive things, leave politics at the door, leave your own personal egos at the door as well, and be humble.
Yeah.
I think you can, really get the job done and help as many people as possible.
Amen. I love it. Well, I wish you well, my friend.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Would love for you guys to get connected with Josh. Make sure you're following him on Facebook. Get connected with his campaign, and just get to know him and your other candidates, so we can all be as informed as possible in this upcoming primary. It's going to make a big difference for our district. So let's make the right choice, friends. Be blessed. Have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.